Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to congratulate the Sphere Group for organizing this conference. It's a very esteemed set of academicians and professionals on the single umbrella and discussing about different aspects of technology. I'm also happy to share my views and my research progress on this platform. I am Jitendra Pandey, a faculty member at Middle East College in Muscat, with affiliation with Coventry University, UK. And also, I am doing currently my research in the field of artificial intelligence and intelligent systems. Over the next 15 minutes, I want to take you on a journey that every person in this room, whether you are an engineer, a product manager, a tech leader, or an academician, you're already a part of, whether you realize this or no. We are all living through the most significant technological acceleration in the human history, artificial intelligence. It is reshaping industries, economies, and societies at a pace none of us fully predicted 5 years ago. But here is the question, which I want to leave with you today: at what cost? I have picked up this topic because I know that the models have been created. The technology is currently in use now. People are getting the benefits of using technology. But what we are missing out is at what cost? Because the story of AI is not just a story of breakthroughs, it is increasingly a story of trade offs, energy, equity, privacy, accountability. And how we navigate those trade offs will define the next decade of the progress which we are going to make. So that is our key agenda today, to understand the sustainable AI and the future challenges of AI which are waiting for us. Some simple and basic facts which we have to understand: that how the AI agents or AI based systems, they are different to the normal systems. The very first example: if you search something on a Google platform and you search the same thing on a AI platform, it takes 500 times more energy in comparison, of 500 times more energy than a normal Google platform. You can imagine the kind of energy consumption which is required. And you can multiply that by hundreds of millions of queries per day on different AI platforms. So looking at that, 3.5 million tons of CO2, which is emitted by these systems. That is the estimated carbon footprint of training a GPT-3 machine alone, which is equivalent to five, I mean, emissions from five cars, or you can say five SUVs. And also, in terms of money, in terms of market share, over $200 billion in AI infrastructure investment is projected by 2026 end, which will be used for the development of data centers, GPU clusters, cooling systems. The physical footprint of AI is enormous and growing. And trust me on one thing: this $200 billion, which is going to be invested, will be of that infrastructure will be of no use after 3 years. That infrastructure will be irrelevant because the requirements will change. So the more and more amount of money we are flushing towards the infrastructure required for the AI systems are not everlasting. They are for a very short term. And perhaps most striking from a social perspective, research consistently shows that 1 in 3 AI systems produces outcomes that are measurably biased against certain demographical groups. So we are wasting, no, I'll not say wasting, in fact, sorry, we are investing huge in terms of developing the infrastructure. We are consuming more energy when we are using those systems. And also, we are we are emitting huge amount of CO2 in the environment while using these systems. So these numbers are not meant to alarm you. They are meant to orient you, because you cannot solve a problem unless you have measured it. So I'm sure the speakers will be talking about different uses of technologies in the coming sessions. But I would also like to open this new Pandora box where we have to do more research in terms of energy efficient systems, sustainable systems, systems which can predict without any kind of partiality. Talking about sustainability crisis in AI, it has two dimensions. One is environmental and other one is social. On the environmental side, AI demand is growing at a speed of 35 to 40% compound annual growth rate, which cannot be matched by the efficiency gains in the hardware or software. That means the requirement is growing very rapidly, but the supporting hardware or software is not mapping that requirement. Data centers today consume between 1 and 2% of global electricity. 1 and 2% of global electricity is consumed by the data centers, which is expected to triple by 2030. That's another assumption only. I'm sure the numbers will be higher. Think about what that means concretely. Every time you run a query against a large model, for code generation, for writing an email, for creating a document, for creating a PowerPoint, for creating a video or image creation, you are consuming approximately 20 to 25 times the energy from a normal Google search engines at a scale that adds up to something extraordinary. The more complex things you are doing, the energy consumption requirement will be higher. Beyond electricity, there is the hardware life cycle problem. The GPU turnover cycle in data centers is now 18 to 24 months. So if you're spending that much amount of money to build the data centers, the life cycle of the GPU itself is 2 years. After 2 years, that GPU will not be of any use. You have to replace the GPU. When you are replacing the GPU, you have to replace the whole infrastructure. That investment which you are doing on the data centers is also not long lasting, which is another big problem. And another big challenge, which is that is this GPU recycling is not also very easy. So it will generate lots of electronic waste in the environment. These data centers, they require lots of cooling to run the data centers. Microsoft data centers consume 6.4 million cubic meters of water in 2022, enough to fill roughly 2,500 Olympic swimming pools. So the requirements are enormous. The footprints are disastrous. So we have to see that what kind of system we are building up and how it is negatively impacting the environment. Let's talk further about the energy and the carbon footprint. This is something which is again my favorite subject. I always talk about the green computing and the green infrastructure. So when we are building the AI infrastructure, even when we are building the AI models also, we have to see that how those models can be more sustainable. The hardware part can be more sustainable and also the software part. We have to have a proper comparison, and we have to see that how much sustainable we can be in terms of developing the whole infrastructure. So training the GPT-3 model consumed approximately 1,200 megawatt hours of electricity and produced around 500 tons of CO2 equivalent. That is equivalent to the annual electricity consumption of roughly 300 average homes. That means one model training requires the electricity which is equivalent to 300 house annual consumption. Training is a one-time cost per model per version, and look at the frequency in which the versions are being released. So you can imagine that every time you are making a change into your system, you have to train the model and how much consumption is happening there. As models they grow larger, the cost also scales accordingly. Then comes the next phase, which is the inference phase. Every time the model is queried, that means you train the model, now the model is being used. Every time the model is being queried, let's say billions of times per day, energy is being consumed. There are different people who are using AI models for different purpose. We have seen how people were using ChatGPT, Gemini, and now the Claude, and of course DeepSeek and Canva, and so many other platforms which are there. The aggregate now exceeds training cost by a factor of 3 to 10, depending on what model you are using. There's also a real latency trade off. More energy efficient models are often slower. That means if you're building the energy efficient models, the performance will come down. So organizations, they are facing a genuine engineering tension between performance, cost, and sustainability. The third one, you have got the model ready with you. You have to host it, so you require a data center. Power usage of a data center is the key efficiency metric. The global average is 1.5 for every unit used by compute. Half a unit is wasted on cooling. That means when you are doing some kind of search or some kind of calculation, for every 1.5 unit of electricity consumed, zero point 0.5 is used or wasted for the cooling of the system. Top hyperscalers like Google and Microsoft have brought this down to 1.1, but still it's a high number. Most enterprise data centers are nowhere near that. That's another, uh, we can say, footprint on the environment. Location also matters enormously because depending on where data center is located, if you have a data center in the Arctic Circle, that's another requirement. If you have a data center in the Middle East, they have a different requirement. So depending on the location of data center, also the energy requirement is also changing. Talking about the next part, bias and ethics. So we all understand that the performance of the AI based systems, they depend largely on the quality of data. If the data quality is not good, the results will also not good. And the systems, there are many systems which are built on synthetic data, whereby they lose their reliability. So synthetic data systems are not so reliable as well. That's the another big issue in terms of sustainable AI, and which is what something which you have to look. Amazon has an internal AI powered CV screening tool which was found to systematically downgrade resumes from women, which is a very interesting case study. The reason was that because the majority of manpower or man force in the olden times were men. So when the systems were developed, they have got data samples where they have got data samples coming from the men employees. So the model was trained in a way that it will always predict a male employee better, superior than the female employee, which was a big bias on the Amazon's AI powered CV screening tool. Similarly, in the healthcare sectors, pulse oximeters and certain diagnostics which require AI systems, they show reduced performance on patients with darker skin tones. That means the systems have been developed with the people with a fairer skin tone, but when it comes to the darker skin tone people, the performance is not as per the mark. In credit scoring also, variables like zip code, education level acts as proxies for race and socioeconomic status. Whatever I'm telling you is all based on the statistics and the facts, and this is what is the real issue in terms of the AI-based models. What makes this challenging is that technologies, these biases often emerge from the data itself, not from any intentional design decision. So these issues which are there, they are actually coming out from the data which you have. So as a human, as a programmer, as a organization, as a model, everything is fine. But because system was trained based on the data which was having the bias in the beginning, so that's how the system performs as well. There are different mitigation pathways which are there. Diverse training data is foundational. You have to use generative AI tools like SHAP or Lime, which are becoming standards in the industries nowadays. Fairness metrics need to be built into the model evaluation from day one, and also the regulatory recognition systems also have to be embedded into the, you can say, models. So there are different governments which are coming up with the guidelines which are required uh, for the organizations to follow while developing these systems. Quickly, I will move on to the next part where I will talk about data sovereignty and privacy. That's another big issue. So we have got data coming from different regions, and we all understand that cybersecurity is a very big issue. Then again, we talk about consent and scraping whenever we are collecting data from different sources, whether the consent has been taken or no, and data colonialism, sensitive domains, and also privacy for preserving the systems. These are another some challenges which are there. Talking about the solutions now, we can talk about different clean AI solutions, and we can also propose some frameworks. We can talk about model distillations. We can talk about quantization. We can talk about sparse transformers. We can talk about mixture of experts. So different techniques can be used. So the first part, which is the pillar one, which talks about efficient models. Model distillation takes a large, expensive model and trains a smaller student model to replicate its output. That is something which can be done. Quantization reduces the numerical precision of model weights from 32-bit floating to the 8-bit or even 4-bit integers. Quickly, I will move to the next point, which is the green infrastructure. The hyperscalers are already moving aggressively now. Google matched 100% of its electricity with renewable purchases in 2017. So we are getting the data centers which are completely powered by the renewable energy, which is a very good sign, which has to be followed by other big data centers as well, which is not happening. Carbon aware scheduling. We people should know what is their carbon footprints, and they should accordingly. And in fact, the carbon footprint should also be published by the huge industries, so that they should know that how much they are giving to the environment. And also we there's a requirement for the governance and policy. So there are different governments, they have come up with the rules and regulations, especially European unions. They have come up with the AI Act, which is the most comprehensive AI regulation in the force today, which was published way back in 2023. In fact, in the Middle East also, we have got different AI regulations coming from UAE, from Oman as well. So the key message here is that these are engineering and management choices, not aspiration goals. You can implement them today. So these solutions can be implemented right away by the people today itself. We don't have to wait for anyone else to lead first and then we will follow. We can start doing from the beginning itself. This is a four-stage framework which I am proposing here. It represents the operational cycle that leading organizations are adopting. uh, First is measure. You should know how much is your carbon footprint, how much is your carbon CO2 impact. Then the second thing is report. We should always tell that this is the footprint which we are generating. Or in fact, suppose if we are, maybe that we have a huge infrastructure, but our CO2 footprint is less. So it's always good to talk about that. Then third is optimize. But once we know that how much footprint we have, we can know we are not going in a good direction. So we can always optimize. We can always find ways to reduce it also. And the next one is certify. For organizations operating in the regulated industries, they should be given some kind of preferences, some kind of you can say certifications, compliance regulations, whatever. Some kind of benefit should be given to them. So the some of the companies which I have listed here, these are the companies which are not doing this out of just just curiousness, but they are doing this because it is what is required from them. And this is also being demanded from the customers means people are demanding that organizations should reduce their CO2 footprint, otherwise they will have different issues in the coming years. The road ahead, some targets which are given here. So on energy efficiency, we are at roughly 40% of where we need to be. The hardware and software tools exist, and the gap is in terms of adoption. Bias mitigation is at 30%. It can be again improved. Data privacy practices are at 45%. It can be improved. Regulatory compliance is 35% globally, with more organizations, with more countries coming up with their own regulations. I'm sure it will be improving. Carbon transparency, organizations nowadays they talk about carbon trading, also they talk about carbon footprints. So I'm sure more awareness is generated, the more governments are coming into this kind of, you can say, compliances. This will also improve as well. So this, the opportunities which are provided can be always make use by the people. I don't want to leave you here with the impression that sustainable AI is only about constraint, that you stop yourself in development. No, we can develop along with the compliance. So development with compliance is always good rather than development with constraint. AI is already optimizing renewable energy grid management with 10 to 20% efficiency gains. So we know that where we have more requirement, where we have less requirement, the grids automatically shifts the load in those areas. So that for that already AI is being effectively used. What we can do as a researcher, we have lots of big, you can say, role to play. The next paper which you are publishing should include the energy consumption of your training runs alongside your accuracy matrix. As a ML engineers, profile the energy cost of every experiment you have done. As a product manager, your product roadmap should have a sustainability KPI. As a tech leader, commit to AI carbon neutrality. As a policymaker, the single most important thing you can do is harmonize the AI standards in your organization. So that is what can be done. Some more things I would like to share. So I am also currently working on an edited book whereby we're talking about orchestrating ethical literacy. This is a book which is going to be published on the IGI global platform. There is no publication charges, it's free of cost. If you have got a good research paper which is ready, you can submit on this platform. And if it goes through the review process, if it's accepted, you may get a good publication as well. There's another book which is in pipeline, which is on green computing techniques, which is my favorite area. Again, on the same IGI global platform, free of charge. If you have a good research paper, you can use this opportunity to publish. With this, I will just say the question is not whether AI will transform our world. It already has. We all agree to that. The question is whether we have the wisdom to make it a force for sustainability, equity, and long term human flourishing. With that, I would like to thank all of you for listening to me, and I'm looking forward to your presentations in this session now. Thank you. And if you have any questions, we can have a discussion as well.
Thank you so much, sir, for that knowledgeable talk. Thank you so much again for joining us today.